Hello to my kings, queens, and in-betweens. I'm Valerie and welcome to my channel, The Bookish Valkyrie. So today's video is recommending romance authors who are also part of the LGBT plus community. If you are looking for some romances while gearing up for Pride Month, or if you are joining the Amazing Readathon and you happen to be joining Team Romance, hello, hi, come join us. The water's fine. Let's get started because I've got a lot. First up, I have Gabe Kolnavoa, who is a recent introduction to my library. I read this during the Trans Rights Readathon and I absolutely loved it. His other books that I'm interested in reading, I'm not sure if they're romance, but I know that they have romantic subplots. I'll have to kind of like see if they'll count as romance or not. But this one most definitely is. It is a Pride and Prejudice remix. And you know, if I am feeling like a reread, I really wouldn't mind picking this one back up again. And then one of my longtime favorites is Adriana Herrera. Her first big series is the Dreamer series, starting with American Dreamer, and it is all featuring Afro-Latino love with all queer personages. I believe, yes, these first three are all male-male pairings, and this is a male-female pairing where both characters are bisexual, and it explores so many different things. They're so swoony, and they're really hot. Her more recent series is a historical romance series, and it starts with a Caribbean heiress in Paris. I have both the first and second books on Audible, and I would love to get to these. I don't know how I have managed to not read these yet, but every time I go to pick them up, it just doesn't happen. I think the last time I tried to pick it up, I was stuck in a cabin in the snow and with coworkers, and it just wasn't quite the setting for a romance. Anyway, I am definitely hoping to get to that one in June. And then another author is Casey McQuiston. They have a lot of options, but this is my favorite, Red, White, and Royal Blue. I am not sure that Casey McQuiston is necessarily the author for me, like definitely not an auto-buy author, but I really love this book in particular. The movie is also pretty swoony. Not a bad adaptation, to be honest. So anyway, really loved this, really enjoyed it. Then one of my ultimate favorites is Cat Sebastian. So the Cabot series is abso-fucking-lutely the best. Like, just sweet, grumpy boys trying to fall in love and not get into too much trouble over it. She also has a lot of historical romances, like The Queer Principles of Kit Webb. This series is really good too, but I think this one is, the first one is my favorite in the series. Although, I don't know. I might have to do a reread to really make that distinction. And then I really am hoping, I haven't heard anything, but I really am hoping we are getting more in this series, Hither Page and The Missing Page, because these two are just so delightful. So this series follows the same couple, and you get a morally gray cinnamon roll and a happy sunshiny grump. I don't know how else to explain these character dynamics. They're not exactly, they're definitely Venn diagrams of the tropes. Anyway, They are delightful and I want more of them. Now this series, We Could Be So Good. This is the Mid-Century NYC series. This first book I have read, it is so good. I think, I just love everything Cat Sebastian writes. It's just that simple. I don't think there is a single stinker in the bunch. But I really enjoyed this one. This one is a little bit different than her other books. And the second book, You Should Be So Lucky, is out, and I have that one on my e-reader, so I will be definitely going to pick that up. I think it may be the only Cat Sebastian book I haven't read yet, so gotta keep up to date. But Cat Sebastian is a historical romance writer that manages to find all of the little crevices of historical romance that really desperately need to be filled. So I absolutely recommend Cat Sebastian. And then segueing into some more historical romance, I have Alexis Hall. I have read Something Fabulous, which is a wonderful little romp through the countryside. And you have a distinct Grumpy Sunshine pairing. But there's definitely some subversions of those roles. And then I have not read the second book in that series, Something Spectacular, but I do have it on audiobook, so I'm hoping that that will be something I can get to. Honestly, I'm hoping to read all of the books. We'll see what I manage. Another one, I have talked about this one so much, and I really, really need to get to this one, and it is A Lady for a Duke. This is a trans romance, a trans historical romance, and I really need to read it because I think this is going to be one of those exceptions for me where a friends to lovers will work for me, I think. But we'll see. And then in Alexis Hall's other more contemporary romances, I have read For Real, which is a BDSM male romance where the traditional roles are a little bit flipped in that the older protagonist, because it is age gap, and the older protagonist is actually the sub, and the younger protagonist is a dom who is looking for someone to teach him the ropes. And so it's a very different dynamic than what you see in most traditional BDSM romances, and it's very emotional, and honestly it put me through the ringer way more than I expected it to when I picked it up. I was expecting a little bit of a lighter read than I got, but I was not sad about it. And then in that same series, I think the series is called the Spires series, I also have Glitterland. I believe this actually comes from before For Real, but I have it and it's a pretty cover, and I already know that I love part of the series. I'm guessing I'll love that too. And if you are also wanting to stick in the more contemporary realm with Alexis Hall, but you're wanting something a little more rom-com-y, I would definitely recommend Boyfriend Material. And it has a sequel, Husband Material, which ultimately is a romance, but it definitely has a little bit more lit fic feel to it. I don't know if that makes sense without having any spoilers, but I definitely enjoyed Boyfriend Material more, but Husband Material is a very good follow-up to that book. And then I'm going to come out of left field with a sci-fi romance, A Swift and Sudden Exit by Nico Vincenti. This just barely dropped, I want to say, earlier this month, like maybe even earlier this week. I pre-ordered this, and look at the cover. I would have picked this up just based on the cover. It's a time travel romance, and while time travel is not my favorite, I think this one might be an exception. I'm really hoping this one will be an exception. Also, because I pre-ordered it, I got a lot of nice little goodies with it, like this adorable bookmark and some art of the main characters and the author. And I'm really excited to see how this sci-fi romance pans out. I'm not sure how much I love time travel, but I'm willing to give it a go with this one. Now, sticking with the sapphics, I have Cleat Cute by Meryl Wilsner. This has been all over Book Talk and BookTube with varying reactions. You either love it or you hate it. There are a few people who felt kind of meh about it, but I'm hoping that I will fall in the category of love it. I don't know. I have a soft spot for sports romances. I really do. And I find that really strange because I don't particularly care for sports. But, I mean, make it sapphic, make it romantic. I can't resist. Another absolute favorite is Talia Hibbert. Now, she is most well known for her Brown Sisters series. Get a Life, Chloe Brown. Take a Hint, Danny Brown. And Act Your Age, Eve Brown. I have loved these to varying degrees. I would say that this one is the horniest one. And so if you like your romance with a little extra horny, this is the one for you. I like this one on a bisexual flipping tropes on their heads kind of vibe. Like, I ultimately think this one might be my favorite, but it is really just neck and neck with Eve Brown, which is your neurodivergent chaos gremlin romance that just really hits the spot. So, like, honestly, read the whole series. You won't be sad about it. And then another Talia Hibbert is Work For It. I believe this one is actually part of one of her older series, but I have only read one or two of them. And so I have some reading to catch up on, but this one is definitely more of a spin-off story. I have to say that this is definitely her most beautifully written story. One of our main characters is Griffin. He is a local farmer gastro technician, I guess. I don't know. He plays with natural flavors for sodas, natural flavor combinations for sodas, for a local small batch company. And they're doing their elderflower harvest, which is like a big event where locals and tourists come to help harvest the elderflowers for their like artisan soda, I guess. And the other main character, I'm sure I'm butchering how his name is supposed to be said. Keenis? Keynes? I don't know. He is escaping from his city life and is here in town for the harvest, for the elderflower harvest. He is terribly grumpy, and he has some trauma that he is trying to recover from. And it's just like a hurt comfort, grumpy sunshine, cute little romance that really just, it got me. I also want to mention Talia Hibbert's Ravenwood series, which is great fun. I loved every book in the series, each of them in their own way, but the one that really just spoke to me is That Kind of Guy, because it was the first instance of demisexual representation that I have found in romance. I have found more since then, but it was the first one that I found, and I just really loved it. And it was the male main character in an MF romance, and I just really loved seeing that representation. It was such a pleasant surprise when I read that. So definitely need to mention the Ravenwood series. The next author I want to talk about is Tal Bauer, and the first book that I read from him was You and Me. This was a book that one of my best friends recommended to me, and I can tell you right now it is an absolute tearjerker, and everything that I have seen about Tal Bauer since then, just, that's what you're gonna have to expect. Just, if you're gonna read Tal Bauer, be prepared to be wrecked. So I loved it. Always check your content warnings, especially with an author like this where you know you're always going to end up wrecked. And then the next book that I want to read from him is Never Stay Gone. I picked this one up on Pangobooks, and I'm super excited to read more from Tal Bauer. I can't wait. I can't wait to get wrecked. And also, it's really nice to find some male queer voices in romance. There's definitely plenty of female authors in queer romance, but finding some male authors in queer romance is just really refreshing, and I'm super happy to have found him. Speaking of, the next one I have is Cole McCade. The book that I have from him is Just Like This. I have not read this book. I don't really know anything about it. I honestly picked it up for the cover, but I know that this is an author that a lot of people adore, and speaking of adores, and it's Karina Adore's book, which I honestly have really enjoyed everything that this publisher has put out. This branch of, I think, Avon. I'm not sure. I'm super excited to pick that up, but I do know that the big series that most people talk about when they talk about Cole McCade is Criminal Intentions, and I believe it's a series that follows two detectives that are in love. I've heard really good things. I don't tend toward the more suspense end of romance, but I will definitely be willing to make an exception once I know whether or not I like Cole's writing style. Another book that I have from Cole McCade is his Cocky Valet, which I also may pick up sometime this month. This was written during the Cockygate time period in Romancelandia's history, when that one author tried to copyright the word cocky, and everybody started writing books with cocky in the title. It definitely has I haven't read it yet, but from what I understand, it has a employer-employee romance, but the dynamic is flipped to where the more dominant person in the relationship is the employee. So I don't know. We'll see how I feel about that, but I do have that on my e-reader, and will pick it up if it fits in somewhere amongst the Amazing Readathon adventures this coming month. And then next up I have Ashley Poston, and the book from her that I am wanting to read is The Dead Romantics. I have not read any of her adult books, but I did read her Geekerella series, which is a YA romance series, and I very much enjoyed that. So I'm hoping that I'll enjoy this, and I know that these books, these more recent adult romances from her have been really popular on Book Talk and other bookish media. So, but this is the one that she first came out with, and it's the one that appeals to me the most. So who knows if it fits in with a prompt. I may be getting to that this month finally. And I can't have a Pride Month go by without at least mentioning one of my favorite comfort reads, which is the Heartstopper series. I love these books. They make me so happy. I know I really don't need to talk about them all that much because they're already so popular, and the Netflix series has definitely upped its popularity. But I can't not. I have read this series at least once a year since it came out. I have not read it yet this year, so I will be getting to these books if the opportunity arises, because I love them. They just make me so happy. Like, when I'm feeling sad and like I really need a little bit of sunshine, I pick up these books and it does it for me. It makes me happy. I just wish I had had them when I was a kid, when I was a teenager. Speaking of YA stories that I wished that I had had as a kid, Felix Ever After is one of my favorite stories from a trans author. Kaale Calendar mostly writes for middle grade and YA, or at least has up until now, and I loved Felix Ever After. One of my ultimate favorites. Will always come back to it, will always recommend it. And then another book from them that I have that is a YA romance is kind of an epic love story. If it fits a prompt, I will probably pick it up. But the one from Kaale Calendar that I'm hoping to get to is Stars in Your Eyes. It is a Hollywood romance. I believe it is a Hollywood fomance, as in like fake dating, which I always enjoy. I believe it's supposed to be one of those arranged relationships for the tabloids to help with reputations and visibility. But I have I have that book on audiobook as well. I think I picked it up through Book of the Month. Anyway, I really want to get to that book because I am very interested to see how I feel about Kaale Calendar as an adult romance writer. And then I have Katie Robert. The first book I ever read from Katie Robert was Gifting Me to His Best Friend, and I believe that was when I discovered that I really do enjoy poly romance. It's erotic romance. But I think that everything from Katie Robert probably can be counted as erotic romance. Or at least everything from them that I have read. The Dragon's Bride is another one that I have read, and I want to continue in that series. I'm not sure why I haven't, but if you are here for the monster fuckery, then that is the series for you. Another one that I enjoyed from them was Your Dad Will Do. It's part of that, and Gifting Me to His Best Friend are both part of their taboo romance series. So if you want the taboo romance and you want it quick and dirty, definitely check those books out. But if you're looking for some erotic fantasy romance, then the Dragon's Bride series, I can't remember what the series is called, but the series that the Dragon's Bride is a part of is where you want to go. And then I really want to get back to the Gods of Hunger series by R.M. Virtues. So I read Drag Me Up, I believe during the Trans Rights Readathon, or right before, right around or during the Trans Rights Readathon. And I really, really, really want to get into the rest of that series because R.M. Virtues is just an amazing writer. I really enjoy his style. And one of the books by R.M. Virtues that is not part of the Gods of Hunger series is Sing Me to Sleep. This is a paralysis demon romance. I'm a little unsure how I feel about that, but I'm definitely willing to read it because R.M. Virtues. Just saying. And then Chenika C. Higgins wrote Devon and Chris Plan a Wedding. This is a fake fiancés romance, but like for a reality TV show. One of the characters is using this TV show to come out to their family, and the other one, I'm not sure what their deal is, but it is the premise of the reality TV show is that they are not in fact a couple, and they have to convince their families that they are. If everybody believed that they were engaged to get married, they win a huge bag of money. It's been a long time since this one was pitched to me, but I do have it somewhere in the recesses of my e-reader, and I would like to get to it sometime because I really need to dig that puppy out. It's been a while, and I know that when it first came out, I was all for it, and it just this is the problem with e-readers for me: out of sight, out of mind. It's a real problem if you've got ADHD. So anyway, I am definitely putting that on the list of potential reads for June. So another author that I have for you is Alison Cochrane. The first book she wrote, The Charm Offensive, was probably my favorite from her so far. Her Christmas romance, Kiss Her Once for Me, was a good read, but it was a little bit angstier than I prefer. But because of how much I enjoyed it anyway, I think that I may enjoy it more on the reread because that's just how angsty things work for me. The stress of it bothers me and keeps me from fully sinking in and enjoying the story. But once I have read it, if it's worth the reread, and I do think that this is worth the reread, then I generally will enjoy it better once I'm picking it up for a second or third time. She just barely dropped a new book, Here We Go Again, and this one is, I think, a second chance romance with a road trip into the desert with an old mentor. It was kind of giving me Priscilla, Queen of the Desert vibes. I could be completely wrong, but that was the feeling I got when I read the synopsis. And I'm really, fingers crossed, hoping that I get the joy in this book that I got from Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. I might not, because I don't think there are any drag queens involved, which is, at least half of the joy. But I don't know. We'll see. Queers in the desert. I'm here for it. I also can't not mention Sierra Simone. She has so many books to choose from. But I'll be honest with you, out of all of her books, and I do have several of them, I have not read any of them. But I think where I want to start is Saint, which I know is technically the third in a series, but the first two books, Priest and Sinner, just don't speak to me. But Saint sounds like a good, enjoyable read. I don't know, I have a thing about road trips and romance, specifically queer road trips and romance. It's one of my tropes that I think I just really enjoy. I love a good road trip in real life and in fiction. And from what I understand, she is super, super spicy, all the chili peppers, and Definitely has no qualms with the taboo. So yeah, I think this could be a really enjoyable read. I have it on audiobook, so we'll see how it goes, and here's hoping I can read all of these books, all of them. Another one that I have recently heard about is Katrina Jackson and her The Spies Who Loved Her series. I believe it is polyamorous, and the first book in the series is Pink Slip, and this woman has been the personal assistant to a couple of spies who are married to each other for years and has pined for them, not so secretly, for years, and finally decides that she needs to move on with her life, and she gives them her pink slip. She gives notice, and during her last week of work with them, they sweep her off on a mission that only she can help them with. And so it's supposed to be like a polyamorous Mr. and Mrs. Smith kind of situation, and I think that sounds wonderful. Again, I don't tend to go for the romantic suspense stories, but I really loved Mr. and Mrs. Smith, so I am hoping that I can love this book too. And then going back to the fake romances, I have The Fiancé Farce by Alexandria Bellfleur on my list of potential reads for June. I have not read this one yet, and I'm a little. I have it. I've owned it for a while, but I haven't read it yet, mostly because I did read one of her previous books, Written in the Stars, which is a Christmas Pride and Prejudice retelling, and I just did not love it. It was kind of a disappointment for me, and I don't know if it was a mood thing because I definitely was in a bit of a funk at the time that I read it, or if it's a genuinely not for me story and maybe it's just that one book and maybe it's the author. I don't know. So this is kind of a second chance romance for me and Alexandria Bellfleur. But I do love fake dating. I think that it is one of the best ways to get your rom-com-y feelings without it being humiliating for the main characters. I really enjoy fake dating. I know that a lot of people think that it's overdone, but frankly, there's so much romance to pick from. If you're feeling overdone on one trope, just pick another one. There are many, many, many other tropes out there for you. But that is not a soapbox I'm going to jump up on right now. Moving on to Rebecca Witherspoon. I have only read one book from Rebecca Witherspoon, and that is Zenny. I really, really enjoyed it. It is two bisexual people in a marriage of convenience, and it's definitely one of those ones where you have to suspend your disbelief because, yes, I know, at least on a contemporary level, getting married to meet the parameters of a will just aren't all that necessary, but in this instance they go ahead and do that. So Zenny is a MF romance with both main characters who are bisexual, and both of them are also on the larger size end of things, and they definitely have some benefits in their fake marriage. And then, it's romance, so the fake doesn't really stick around. It was really enjoyable. I loved it. It was one of the books that I read with my in-person romance book club. And I really wouldn't mind revisiting it, but Rebecca Witherspoon has so many books that I feel like I really need to read more of her books before I go rereading the one, which I am so sad to say I've only read one from her. The one that I read from her. And I think the next book on my list for her is Wraith, which is a Manny romance. And I've heard lots of good things about it. So I'm pretty excited to give that one a try. Now, going back to the historical romances, I am a big fan of E.E. Ottoman. The most recent book from them that I read was A Matter of Disagreement, and I really, really enjoyed it. I think that the two books that I have on my list that I have not read from E.E. Ottoman are The Companion and The Doctor's Discretion. Both of these books sound like they'll be a great time, and they're pretty quick and short, so maybe I'll try to fit them in with one of the sightseeing ones where the page count isn't really a part of the point tally. So that's where I think I want to keep my shorter books, and E.E. Ottoman's books tend to be like less than 200 pages each. Another series that I have been wanting to get to is the Twisted Wishes series by Anna Szabo. This is a series that I first heard about on the Fated Mates podcast. But the book in particular that I want to get to is the third book in this series, and that is Reverb. And it's supposed to have a really kick-ass femme main character, and I'm really very interested to see how I like that series. I do tend to like celebrity romance as well. I don't know why, because I'm not all that into celebrities on a normal basis in my real life, but make it a romance and I'm here for it. I eat it right up. And the other book from her that I have is Cinnamon Roll, and it is a part of a series that, like a multi-author series that centers around, I think, a coffee shop. I've read one other book from the series. I think it's something like Matcha Made in Heaven. No, what is it called? Anyhow, it's this book. I really enjoyed it, and I definitely want to get around to this one if I have the opportunity. Now, this next one, from what I understand, it's debatable as to whether this is a romance or just a contemporary literature book, but that is Honey Girl by Morgan Gogers. I can't read my own handwriting. This book. I've had this since I pre-ordered it, and I still haven't read it. I want to read it, and I picked it up because I thought it was a romance, but I have definitely heard lots of people debate as to how much of a romance it actually is. So I don't know if it counts as romance or not. So I don't know. Make your own choices. It's one of those woke up married stories, and then she just decides to go with the flow and spend the summer in France with her new wife and see where it takes them. And that just sounds kind of awesome to me. I don't know. It sounds like a romance to me. But again, lots of people have said that it's more literary fic than romance. So we'll see. If I read it and I agree that it's more literary fic than romance, then I won't give myself the extra points for reading a romance. But I definitely want to get to this book. It has been languishing, just waiting to be read. So this is another one that I pre-ordered. That is Gwen and Art Are Not in Love by Lex Croucher. I really want to read this. I'm so excited to read this. I have been excited to read this, and I still haven't gotten around to it. So I'm hoping that now is the time, that this is when I get to read it. And then the last author that I have for you is one that most people already know, but I have her entire trilogy and have not read them yet, so they are definitely books that I am wanting to get to if I can this June, like everything else. And that is Ashley Herring Blake, and that's her series that starts with Delilah Green Doesn't Care, and oh wait, I have it in the wrong order. So we have Delilah Green Doesn't Care, Astrid Parker Doesn't Fail, and Iris Kelly Doesn't Date. I have had this trilogy for a while, and I would like to get to it, so this is definitely looking like a read what you own kind of a challenge. But who knows? Watch, I'm going to end up reading a bunch of Kindle Unlimited books and Kobo Plus books instead. Because that's how I roll. But I mean, I'm paying for those too, so I need to read from those too. There's just not enough reading time in the day or the month. Anyway, I hope that you find something to read for your Pride Month, and if you are wanting some more Pride Month recommendations that are not romances, let me know in the comments below, and maybe I will throw together another video with all of the other queer books that I have that would be great for Pride Month. If you have any specific requests, I would very happily discuss that in the comments and or make a video on it. Just let me know and I'll do the thing. All right, see you next video and have a happy Pride Month. Stars shining bright above me. Breezes seem to whisper that sycamore tree. Dream a little dreamer. Bop, bop, bop. Joining the or if you are I am embracing the chaos gremlin energy today. And then now right, okay. It's a delight. I pre-ordered it. Jocelyn. Just because so our chaos gremlin energy, I promise I'll get there. So I have only read one book from Rebecca. I have only read one book from but now that I have babbled on and on about that and said next to nothing, I'm going to continue.